Hello there, and welcome to the weekly Outside Views report on German politics. The German federal government has apparently presented a draft of a new naturalization law. Accordingly, there are reliefs for certain groups. In future, anyone who wants to be naturalized in Germany should no longer have to give up their citizenship of their family's country of origin. This emerges from a draft by the Federal Ministry of the Interior for a new nationality law, which was forwarded to the other federal government departments for approval on Friday. The project agreed in the coalition agreement for a modern citizenship law also relaxes the requirements for acquiring the German language for certain groups. This is usually a prerequisite for naturalization. In addition, the minimum period of stay until the application will be delayed. And the draft, which is available to the German press agency, states that the facilitation of language tests and the obligation to take a naturalization test should be dropped for all foreigners who are at least 67 years old. This is intended to honor the lifetime achievement of the so-called guest worker generation that during the first years of their stay in Germany were not allowed to have language courses or other integration offices like some Danes. However, not only older people who have come to Germany via recruitment agreement should benefit from the simplifications, but all members of this age group. In addition, as far as the language certificate is concerned, there should also be a hardship regulation for younger people who want to naturalize. In justified exceptional cases, for example because of the need for care of a minor, it should be sufficient that the person concerned can communicate verbally in German without valuable problems in everyday life, although I think that's a big mistake. The project is part of a reform of migration and integration policies announced by the Social Democrats, the Greens and the Liberals. It is based on the understanding that the granting of citizenship opens the way to certain participation from which both the naturalized and the society should benefit. The draft generally provides for the possibility of naturalization after 5 years of lawful habitual residence in Germany. Previously, it was 8 years. A 3-year stay should suffice for special integration achievements, such as outstanding achievements in school and work, voluntary work, or particularly good language skills. The so-called option obligation for children of foreigners born in Germany, which was already limited by earlier reforms, is to be completely abolished. This means that as young adults, they no longer have to choose between German citizenship and the citizenship of their parents. But I also think that's a dual citizenship is a mistake. But in addition, the length of time a parent's lawful habitual residence is required for a child of foreign parents to acquire German citizenship through birth in Germany will be extended from 8 to 5 years, or shortened. Due to the significant reduction in the length of stay for one parent, the number of children of foreign parents who acquire German citizenship by being born in Germany will increase, says the draft. The naturalization requirement introduced in 2019, namely integration into German living conditions, is to be extended from the Citizenship Act. Naturalization is out of the question, however, if the foreigner is married to several spouses at the same time, or he shows through his behavior that he does not accept the equality of men and women laid down in the basic law, that's our constitution. The union was already known as the first ideas of the traffic light government for the planned reform of the nationality law came out to be storming against these plans, and I'm quite happy they are. The Russian invasion of Ukraine brought back the German war, and this also has impact on the Bundeswehr. The number of conscientious objectors in the Bundeswehr skyrocketed in 2022, the year of the Russian attack on Ukraine. In 2021, the Federal Office for Family and Civil Society Tasks received 201 applications for conscientious objection. In 2022, there were a total of 951 applications. That's what a spokesman for the Federal Office for Family and Civil Society Tasks told the editorial network Germany, or R&D. Since conscription was abolished in 2011, conscientious objectors have only been people who are already serving in the Bundeswehr, that's the German military. Many base their applications on the message that they would not have expected a military conflict. Well, if I go to the military, well. In 2018, the right-wing Populist Party was surprised by an unexpected... No, that is another topic I'm talking about later. Because now I'm talking about the AfD that could possibly lose an inheritance worth more than 10 million euros, which the inventor Rainer Strangfeld from Bückeburg in Lower Saxony left to the party. That was reported by the German magazine Spiegel. This is because Strangfeld suffered from a serious mental illness and was therefore possibly unable to testify. Shortly before his suicide in July 2018, he had used the AfD in his will as the sole heir to his $1 million fortune. The medium has evaluated several script and sound documents that are in the estate of the 79-year-old. In it, a specialist noted aggressive breakthroughs with delusional life and fantasies of grandeur, and a paranoid and narcissistic personality disorder in this man. The patient, it is said, poses a significant threat to public safety and order. He's highly mentally disturbed and not able to adequately control reality. Twice, in 1998 and 2006, Strangfeld was forcibly admitted to the locked ward of a psychiatric hospital. Until recently, the millionaire, who was rich with the invention of a certain toilet flushing, wrote confused treatises about supposedly supernatural phenomena and alleged miracles that happened to him. Before his suicide, he lived isolated and withdrawn in his Bückeburg apartment and saw himself as the victim of a conspiracy between judges, lawyers, and the state. In addition to the obvious psychological problems, the documents from the estate of the AfD patron showed his deeply right-wing extremist and anti-Semitic attitude, and accordingly he sympathized with the party's DVU and NPD and scolded Jews and Turks who in his eyes were inferior people. According to his own statement, CSU chairman Markus Söder will never again stand as the union's candidate for chancellor and will instead let CDU leader Friedrich Merz take precedence in the 2025 federal election. He said, "Personally, I definitely have no more ambitions. The topic of candidacy for chancellor is done for me." That was said by the Bavarian Prime Minister in a double interview that he gave to the Münchner Merkur together with Friedrich Merz. "From my point of view, the matter is clear. The party leader of the CDU has a clear claim to leadership within the CDU. The CDU normally has priority over the CSU," said Söder. And he continued with a look at himself. "In the like of a CSU man, the topic of candidacy is only mentioned once." Söder had applied as a candidate for chancellor in spring 2021, but was defeated by the justified CDU chairman Armin Laschet in a vote in the CDU Federal Executive Board. He subsequently withdrew his application. Merz is bringing the chancellor candidate freestyle for the first time before the 2021 federal election. "By early autumn 2024 at the latest, when we will make a decision," that's what he told the newspaper, assuming that the next election will take place in autumn 2025, "which is more uncertain than ever with this traffic light," he said. "It is important that the two party leaders of the CDU and the CSU pull on one rope together," said Söder, and emphasized the good cooperation with Merz. "We're both very middle-class politicians. That helped when we both found our sisterums again after the difficult 21. After the New Year's Eve riots and the uncovered coup planned by a group of Reich citizens, Federal Interior Minister Nancy Faeser wants to tighten the gun law in Germany. According to the newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung, the draft law from the Ministry of the Interior provides for a ban on particularly dangerous semi-automatic weapons for private individuals. The newspaper writes, citing the 48-page paper, that blank pistols and crossbows, which are desired by or preferred by Reich citizens, will probably only be available with a firearms license. Before the riots on New Year's Eve, Faeser had already spoken out in favor of tightening gun laws. On the night of New Year's Day, several police officers and firefighters were attacked in cities, including with firecrackers and Sylvester rockets. The attacks in some areas of Berlin were particularly violent, but after the arrest of 25 suspected Reich citizens on December 7th, the debate about gun rights had picked up speed already. The Federal Prosecutor's Office accuses the majority of those arrested of being members of a terrorist organization that wanted to overthrow the political system. The defense minister is once again under criticism. Surprise. Should she be eliminated from office? A new survey draws an independent picture of the mood. Unprofessional, embarrassing, no longer bearable. That Defense Minister Christine Lambrecht has to take clear criticism in the past few days. The Social Democratic politician had posted a video speech on her private Instagram account on New Year's Eve, in which she talked about the Ukraine war while firecrackers and rockets were popping in the background. Above all, the combination of a joyful look back at the year and the mention of the war triggered a lack of understanding. As a result, opposition politicians questioned Lambrecht's suitability as Minister of Defense and called for a resignation. Chancellor Olaf Scholz, also a Social Democrat, sticks to his minister and had a spokesman express his confidence. And Social Democrat leader Saskia Esken also promised Lambrecht her full support. According to an exclusive poll by the opinion research institute CIVE for T-Online, a large majority of Germans believe that the defense minister should vacate her post. 77% of the participants in the representative survey are in favor of admission, and just 13% believe that the minister should remain in office. 10% of respondents are undecided. The minister gets the greatest support from her party's supporters. 28% of Social Democrat supporters do not want Lambrecht to be eliminated from office, but more than half, with 55%, are in favor of it. And the vast majority of supporters of the left, with 68%, the Green with 67%, and the Liberals with 81%, are in favor of letting her go. The approval of the supporters of the Union with 90% and the AfD with 93% is particularly clear. So this woman has to go. Because of the breakdowns that occurred in 2021 federal elections in Berlin, the AfD and the Conservative parties and their parliamentary groups submitted their announced election audit complaints to Karlsruhe on time. A spokesman for the Federal Constitutional Court confirmed on Monday that both complaints had been received. In addition, 8 other election scrutiny complaints are pending. According to the spokesman, the submission deadline for the parliamentary groups ends at the end of January 10th. However, it's possible that complaints from individual persons will still be received in due time. All complaints are directed against the election scrutiny by the Bundestag. On November 10th, with the votes of the traffic light factions, the Social Democrats, the Greens and the Liberals, on the recommendation of the Election Review Committee, the latter decided that the election would be repeated in part. Since then, 327 of the 2,256 constituencies in the capital and 104 of the 1,507 postal voting districts have been affected. These are the constituencies where incidents have been documented. The union originally wanted elections to be held in around 1,200 constituencies. A spokesman for the parliamentary group said on request that the election review complaint announced at the beginning of December had now been lodged. The AfD parliamentary group announced that it had applied for the federal election to be declared invalid in the entire electoral area of Berlin. The election on September 26th and 21 was chaotic in the Berlin polling stations. There were long queues and waiting times, incorrect or missing ballots, which is why polling stations were temporarily closed or stayed open until well after 6 p.m. This also applies to the Berlin House of Representatives, which was elected at the same time. According to a ruling by the Berlin Constitutional Court on November 16th, this election must be repeated entirely. Elections are scheduled for February 12th. Preparations are already underway. But this repeat election is also a case for the Federal Constitutional Court, as I said. 5 constitutional complaints are pending against the judgment of the Berlin judges. 4 of them are linked to an urgent application with the aim that no election will take place until the Karlsruhe procedure has been completed. In the first and largest summary proceedings, which were initiated by 43 plaintiffs, the court gave all Berlin MPs the opportunity to comment. The deadline for this also ends on January 10th, but I don't know about all of this because that's the date when I'm filming this. And this ends this week's report on German politics, but there will be the report on the UK politics tomorrow. So I'll see you in that video. I'll be back.